I never thought a simple parking dispute would turn into the most stressful and revealing week of my life. My Jeep had been parked in the same spot for months, locked, registered, and fully legal. It sat behind my townhouse right where the HOA map said I was allowed to park. I followed the rules carefully, mostly because our HOA president, Linda, was infamous for enforcing them like personal grudges. Everyone in the neighborhood knew Linda. She wasn't just strict, she was aggressive. Clipboards, photos, emails sent at 6 a.m. She treated minor violations like criminal offenses. Most people avoided her. I tried to stay invisible. That morning, I noticed something was wrong the second I stepped outside. My heavy-duty lock gone. Not damaged, not loosened, cut clean off. My stomach dropped as I rushed toward the parking space. The Jeep wasn't there. At first, I thought it had been stolen. I checked the ground for broken glass or signs of forced entry. Nothing except the remains of my lock lying near the curb like a warning. That's when I saw the bright orange towing notice taped to the nearby sign. Unauthorized vehicle removed by HOA authority. I felt a rush of anger and disbelief. No warning sticker. No notice, no violation letter. Just gone. I marched straight to the HOA office. Linda was already waiting for me, or at least she looked like she was. Sitting behind her desk, arms crossed, smug expression fully loaded. "Yes?" she said, pretending not to recognize me. "You cut my lock and took my Jeep," I said, trying to stay calm. She smiled. "Your vehicle was in violation of community standards. We exercised our right to remove it. You cut a private lock," I said. "Oh, that's destruction of property." She leaned back in her chair. "HOA authority overrides personal inconvenience." That sentence told me everything I needed to know. I asked where the Jeep was. She refused to tell me unless I paid the towing fee and signed a compliance form admitting fault. That's when I stopped arguing. Instead, I quietly took out my phone and called a number I rarely had to use. The Jeep wasn't technically mine. It was assigned to me. Within 15 minutes, 2 unmarked vehicles pulled into the HOA parking lot. No sirens, no drama, just calm, purposeful movement. Linda stepped outside, clearly annoyed. "Who are these people?" she demanded. One of the men approached her calmly. "Ma'am, we're here regarding a Jeep removed from this property this morning," she scoffed. "That vehicle violated HOA rules. It's already impounded." The man showed his badge. Her face changed instantly. "Do you know where the vehicle is now?" he asked. Linda hesitated. "I'll need to check the records." Please do," he said. "That vehicle is registered to a multi-agency police task force." Silence. The smug confidence drained from her expression. She stammered something about not being informed. "That won't be relevant," the second officer said. We also need to discuss the destruction of a secured lock. By the time Linda came back with the towing company's information, her hands were shaking. But this was only the beginning, because when the Jeep was recovered, they found something inside that Linda never should have interfered with. And that discovery turned a parking dispute into a legal nightmare. The Jeep was located less than an hour later at a private impound lot the HOA regularly used. The tow operator looked confused and nervous when multiple officers arrived together. "This came from a neighborhood HOA," he explained quickly. "We were told it was unauthorized." The officers didn't argue. They documented everything. When the Jeep was opened, the atmosphere shifted immediately. Nothing dramatic, nothing flashy, just sealed equipment cases clearly marked for official use. The lead officer exhaled slowly. This vehicle was scheduled for deployment today. That was all he said, but it was enough. Back at the HOA office, Linda was pacing. Her earlier confidence had completely vanished. She tried calling the HOA attorney, but it was too late to control the situation. Officers returned, not aggressive, not loud, but firm. They asked for HOA records. Towing authorization logs, emails, security footage. Linda tried to argue that HOA rules gave her power to remove vehicles without consent. That may apply to abandoned cars, one officer said calmly. Not to cutting a private lock and seizing a registered government vehicle. She tried to shift blame to the tow company, then to me, then to a miscommunication, but documentation doesn't lie. Security footage showed Linda instructing maintenance to cut the lock. Emails showed she ignored previous documentation proving the Jeep was authorized. And the biggest problem? She had refused to verify ownership, even after being warned by another board member. By the end of the day, the HOA board held an emergency meeting without Linda presiding. Residents watched as police vehicles parked openly outside the office. Rumors spread fast. Phones came out. People whispered. 2 days later, an official notice was sent to all homeowners. Linda was suspended pending investigation. The HOA issued a written apology. All towing and enforcement fees related to the incident were refunded, not just to me, but to several residents who came forward with similar stories. The lock for the lock. Reimbursed. The damage documented, but the real change was quieter. Linda resigned the following week. No dramatic arrest, no shouting, just consequences. And suddenly the HOA rules were enforced with courtesy instead of fear. As for my Jeep, it was back where it belonged, lock replaced, untouched since. Sometimes the people who abuse power forget one simple thing. There's always someone with real authority. And cutting that lock was the moment she crossed from HOA Karen into a lesson the entire neighborhood would never forget.